My pain became my character.
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 This is Life, Love, and Lockup, Volume 2. I decided to do Volume 2 because of life circumstances and situations that were thrown at me throughout my life. I wanted to shed a little light on different situations to different people that may have experienced different pains. I chose men for different reasons, but one in particular. Growing up, I saw my dad, my brothers, my uncles. I saw just always a strong side. But I know men go through things just like women, and they have emotions as well. So I wanted to hear from their perspective.
The reason why I chose the book what I did, because I feel like we all go through a lot of hurt. And I think as far as a man goes, we're always taught to be strong. And when you're strong, a lot of times that doesn't involve letting people know what your weaknesses are or what you've gone through or your any kind of idiosyncrasies that may be about yourself. And actually what I teach my son instead of being strong is more or less be more resilient. So it allows you to acknowledge your weaknesses, acknowledge your strengths, and allows you to grow. So my chapters are mainly about not having to necessarily be strong so much, but be resilient and to go through different types and forms of relationships and the hurt that's involved in a lot of them. Because I think sometimes we think of either one thing that it's all good or that it was all a bad thing. And we think that a lot of times people are out to get us, and necessarily wasn't always about that. Sometimes it was about their own personal issues. Sometimes it was just about us and the way we took it. So my chapter is mainly about the hurt that relationships bring, some of the depression and things that I've experienced going through those things, and why I move the way I do currently.
Well, I've had 2 strokes, a heart attack. I've experienced some mental issues. You know, a lot of people don't be transparent about those things. Mental issues from depression, like I'm very depressed, and I put a lot of that in my book as well, in the book.
I wanted to be part of this effort because people need to know, people need to see, people need to hear we men talk. Oftentimes we keep it to ourselves because we're afraid of what people might say about what we do reveal about ourselves. But we don't get any growth at all because we keep it to ourselves, and that's not a good thing. So I became part of this process, if you will, because I want people to know that, man, listen, we are all living the same lives, just in different avenues. So what I may experience, you may never experience, but my emotion that I've experienced, you may experience that. And it's directly in line with your life and your life's work, if you will. So I felt it important for me to come forth and talk about the things I've been through, some of my emotions, some of my trials and tribulations, and some of the things that I have not wanted to ever speak of publicly, but things that have helped me or not.
Time caught up with me in 2006. I was diagnosed with prostate cancer, and they thought it was all over for me. But I came from a praying family, and God blessed me to be here today to tell the story.
I finally, after so many years of my life, I finally decided that I wanted to talk about my life, and because I'm a man from 2 different worlds, you know, and that's I added that into the book, and I was really excited that, you know, to be part of this because I've never had a chance to actually express my growing up and everything I went through in my life and how it's impacted me and how it still impacts me till today.
A lot of times men don't have an opportunity or are not presented with platforms like this where we can be transparent and tell our stories. This particular book and this documentary is going to help a lot of people get that healing that they've been looking for. They're going to see themselves in some of our stories, and they're going to be able to take the next step in their journey. And for all of us, we want to be able to help. That's the main reason that we're doing this. Yes, it's going to help us, but we also want to make sure that it helps someone else.
The fact that he lived 4 blocks from me, but never attempted. No, I was told when he was on his dying bed that he was attempting to want to see me, but I didn't even know he was dying until 3 days later after he passed away. So that was hurtful for me at the age of 20 and seeing my father over in a casket. Somebody that I didn't even at the time didn't have feelings for, didn't know. A lot of family members say, you look like him and this and that and the other, but I didn't feel that way because my mind had become numb to the fact that he wasn't around. He didn't do anything for me. For years, I had that abandonment issue. For years, I cried. For years, inside I cried. For years, I was hurt. So my hurt ended up hurting the people that actually love me around me. And I had to come to a realization that's all past. So I had to channel that energy somewhere else. And I did.
Basically, I grew up without my father. So for a 33, 34-year gap, I had not seen him. So basically, I like counseling. I'm a man that feels counseling will help you. I talk about that in my chapter, talking about how counseling changed my life. But as I went through the story, I realized that, we're saying your pain became your character. That's really true for me because my pain is actually what drove me to be better. So basically, my story is about when I first went to the projects in New York where my grandmother lived, where my father lives now. I start there and I end up with my child going to see my father for Father's Day. And yeah, it was rough. It was rough going back through it. So I went there with the mindset of, I'm not going asking for an apology. I just wanted to go. And I kind of just let it flow from there. I was nervous. I was a wreck. I had to go in and not be mad because I knew there was going to be some things said from his side of my father's side of the family. And they did. They said things about my mother. Nothing bad, but they discredited her as if she didn't have anything to do with my upbringing. They just kept saying, look at, oh my God, he has such great kids, and look at his son. And, it kind of, so it was a lot of prayer, a lot of prayer, a lot of phone calls back to my mom, to my sister. But nobody knew that I was taking this journey. I took it on my own. My mother knew, my sister knew, but I kind of took it on my own. I really didn't want nobody trying to tell me how I should do it, how I shouldn't do it. So I pretty much with prayer and having an open mind, because I felt if I went in a certain way and it didn't go the way I wanted it to go, then there's no telling what might have happened. I don't want to give too much away about the chapter, but there is an incident in there where it really could have went the wrong way. And it's a very good possibility I wouldn't be sitting here to tell the story. I could tell the story, but we'd be like Tupac telling that story behind bars because it could have went that way. But I think going into it with an open mind and just trying to let it be instead of trying to make it happen, I just let it flow. And I think that worked out well for me. It was rough though. I mean, I didn't eat for a whole day. I didn't sleep. It was one of the most emotional, trying times I've ever had to deal with. It was, I'm getting chills just thinking about it right now, being honest with you.
I was raped when I was younger. I went through a rape, and writing the book, it pulled on a lot of emotions because I had to go back to that situation. It's like I was reliving that situation all over again. It's a very tragic situation that I would want no one to go through. No, nobody, especially a young male, because it causes a lot of emotions and a lot of confusion, a lot of depression, you know, being taken advantage of and being raped. And my emotions, and it caused a lot of anger towards people. The process was hard. Like growing up, it was hard. Like I would have nightmares about it, and it put me in like a heavy depression. I'm even getting emotional while we're speaking about it, because I can see it all happening over again. Like it took me through horrible emotions, going through something tragic, to have a man take your innocence away at a young age and not being able to, you know, do anything about it.
I think the most difficult part for me was, I think when you go through life, you just don't really think about it, you just go. But in hindsight, I'm looking back and I'm like, I really went through some times where I wondered how I was gonna make it through. It seemed like the end of the world, you know, as a teenager, break up with a girlfriend seemed like the end of the world at that point in time. And so as you go through things in life, different disappointments, it seems like life is over, but you find that strength within that, whether it's, and most of the time for me, it was my relationship with God or my faith in God, or either what God had put into me as a man.
I've broken a lot of hearts. I have led women down the wrong journey, the wrong path, and I've lied. I think we all have lied to a certain degree to get what we want, but we don't have to do that. Women, as I've come to understand, respect and want the truth, whether it be beneficial or detrimental. They want to know the truth. And I think men need to tell the truth about what's going on in their lives when it comes to women that they deal with.
In 2009, when the love of my life was hospital right here in Atlanta, Georgia. And much to my surprise, she went into a coma right in front of me. And I was helpless. All my life I've been protecting, thinking that I could protect my wife. But it was, suddenly I found myself helpless. There was nothing I could do. The nurses and all was there. And that must have been one of the worst experiences of my life. So I went into a deep depression behind that. And I had to take a trip, and I talk about that in the book. I took a trip to Job's house. And I says, Job, how do I get through this? He said, Benny, that's small things that you have, even though you lost your wife. I've lost all I had. But you can work, you can make it. And God gave it all back to me. That's Job said, God gave it all back to him. And so that was encouraging to me.
It was important for my dad to be in this volume for a number of reasons. My father have encountered a lot of pain just like me. And I often say that I get my strength from my father, just like I got a lot of strength from my mom. I looked at how my dad lost my mom, 2 children. Every day he wakes up with the disease, being diseased, this monster called cancer. Just like I wake up dealing with lupus, having a total hysterectomy at a total early age, and also losing my mom and my sister and my brother. All 3 were big fan of mine. And so it's real painful. And every day, him and I go through this pain together. And a lot of people don't know. But it's one of the things that have made us strong and been able to accumulate a real strong bond. So I just know that by my father sharing his story and breaking his silence, because it come from a family that we kind of keep things secretive, it gives me more strength as well to be able to go on, run on, and see what the end is going to be about.
One of the reasons why I want to share this story with the world, really, is because I've had a lot of disappointments in life. I refer to it as disappointments. And I think this story would be a blessing to others who have shared the same story.
Now, the way I was brought up in America is considered abuse. It was in my story. We do the slightest thing, we will get whooped like we were slaves. And they would not think anything of it. Their way of showing love was not really emotionally involved. Their way of love was feeding us, clothing us, put a roof over our head, and Christmas time, if we're lucky, we get gifts. They never hug, they never show that emotional attachments to the children. And I'm talking about my family. And this goes across my culture, in actuality, it goes across my culture, in Nigeria as a whole. Nigerian parents are not they don't get emotionally involved with their children. They just feed them, clothe them, and do what they need to do to raise them, and with strict orders, beatings. They hardly say they love you. Hardly. I think my father said he loved me or he was proud of me maybe about 20 years ago for the first time. I didn't know how to take it. I thought he was drunk, but no, he's not. But he wasn't. So I really feel like, what I went through and what my siblings went through, because it wasn't just me. It was me and my siblings. We went through this together. I don't want our children to go through that.
I've been hurt real deep, and I still deal with the pain. This can be a lonely world. And sometimes even being successful, you really become lonely. Through it all, I've been put on the cross, but I had to remember, God sits high, and he's still on the throne. I just want everybody to know, we're gonna go through some things in life. I went to sleep. I called 911. I went into a state of coma. Literally, I fell all the way down. And again, God said, she shall live. I encourage everybody to go get in the mirror and don't allow your pain to overtake you. Every day won't be good, but it's not about that. You have the power to turn it around.
Now, I have got a 19-year-old beautiful baby girl, and I did not know the things that I know now until I recognized some of the things that she would be going through. Did I know them? I probably didn't know them. Did I accept them? Probably didn't accept them. But now I understand that the things that I went through and was going through and contributed to these lives of the women that I've been through were not always good. And I don't want my daughter to go through the same thing. I want her to go through some pleasantries. I want her to go through a nice life, to a great love life, to great intimacy. I want her to have a great family. I want her to grow up to be a fantastic woman, a wife, if she chooses to be a wife. I want her to be all those things. So I wanted people to know that, yeah, I've made some mistakes. I've treated some people very poorly, without care, if you will. But now that I know better, I want to do better.
Well, my pain was not having my father there. That was the pain. And what it did for my character was I wanted to be well. I wanted to be right. I remember seeing TV shows back in the day, way back in the day, when Oprah was way back in the day, Mike Douglas and all that time. And they would have these cats up there that had killed a lot of people, serial killer or rapists. And they would always say, yeah, you know, when I was growing up, you know, my dad beat me, or yeah, when I was growing up, you know, I was picked on. So I would always say, I will never let him not being around be an excuse for not doing what I'm supposed to do, living life the right way. I wanted to make sure that my mother was looked at in a great light. If I'm out there being a knucklehead, now they looking at my mom going, see, yeah, if she had a husband, yada, yada, yada. So that kept me on the straight and narrow, I think. And there was don't get me wrong, I've done some things, I've done some bad things. By the grace of God, I didn't get caught. So, you know, I was able to get through some things, but that's how it shaped me, man. And you know, with the whole counseling thing, like you said, we as black men, we look at counseling as taboo. You know, you go to counseling, you're crazy, you know. We all got a little craziness in us, so we all need a little counseling. And, you know, we as black men, we're the alphas. You know, we don't like asking for help. Me, myself, I just want people to understand that you need to ask for help. The rites of passage for a man, to me, is when you can ask for help. And I ain't talking about asking for $50, asking for real help for something. So that's why I'm hoping, you know, my pain can actually help somebody else's character be shaped also.
For my previous relationship, I thought I was going to get love. I didn't, really. It was non-emotional. And, you know, as an individual, as a grown-up, you shouldn't have to beg for emotions. Shouldn't have to beg for emotional love, especially if this person, you were in a relationship with this person. And I didn't get that. So I had to find an outlet. And my outlet was acting. I went to acting school, and all the emotions that was in me, the anger, the bitterness, the resentment and anger that I had, I just channeled it through my acting. And it's got me to a lot of places. It's got me into so many different things. And in the midst of acting and trying to build a brand for myself, I ended up with a lady that I fell in love with. And she is also in the same business, and she's guiding me. We're guiding each other through this. And she knows me more than anyone now. She knows what my expectations are, what my needs are. So the acting has been extremely beneficial.
One of the most important and the joy of my life is that my daughter invited me to go on this journey with her. It's been an uphill journey for her, but Jesus has been by our side. So I'm excited. I thank God for having this opportunity to share this journey with her.
I want people to also understand, like I said, in life, things are gonna happen. It's not about how you fall, but the way that you get up.
All we have talked about throughout our lifetime is if God would bless us to be a blessing to other folks who need it. And that's what the mission is, I believe, is to be a blessing to someone else. I do believe that this will help some people. Maybe it won't help everybody, but if we can help a few, then the living won't be in vain.
Life, love, and lockup. My pain became my character. We got work to do. We still got work to do.